Hello, how are you?
All well, thank you. You're in US now or which
No,
country?
I'm in the Netherlands.
Sorry to
Okay.
interrupt, ma'am, but we're live now, so you can just
Okay.
start.
Yeah, yeah.
Pradnya, ma'am, can we begin with the introductions? We're actually live on YouTube.
Okay, so should I start?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Please.
Uh, Welcome to the Mahi Talk. We have today a topic that water a global perspective. So I'm Pradnya Thakur, a national lead for Nirmal Jal Prayas of Naredko Mahi. On behalf of Naredko Mahi, I want to welcome you all for this talk for Naredko. So Naredko has established Naredko Mahi. It's a woman wing to encourage the participation and integration of women in real estate sector and allied field. Naredko Mahi strives to create an environment where women professionals can come together to share experiences, harness their skill, and draw on collective resources, influence the sector, grow together, and drive lasting change. It ensures active engagement of members working towards the development and growth of sector with due recognition of the contribution made by women. So I hereby welcome you. I also take the opportunity to welcome today's speaker, Mr. Han Henjin, Naredko Mahi's president, Mrs. Smita Patil, and Mahi Talk Show. We have four initiatives. So Ketki Kazbekar, she is leading for Naredko Skilling Initiative, and this talk is under her initiative. So I welcome here all, and skilling, we have four total different initiatives. So Nirmal Jal Prayas is a water saving initiative focused on promoting water conservation through awareness campaign, adoption of water efficient technologies, and collaboration with stakeholders for sustainable urban development. Our second initiative is Skilling Initiative, dedicated to upskilling women in real estate sector through newsletters, mentorship, this Mahi Talk, training sessions, and partnerships, empowering them to overcome challenges and thrive professionally. We also conducted various trainings on different topics for various sectors, like from for laborers and various sectors associated with real estate development. Our another initiative is Shashwat Nirman Sustainable Development Initiative, which is recently we started. As we all know that sustainability, it is a driving initiative promoting green building practices, energy efficiency, and eco-friendly construction to align the real estate sector with India's environment goal. And the last initiative, but not least, that Dolphin Tank, a dynamic prop tech startup accelerator offering mentorship, funding access, site visits, and networking designed to foster innovation and support emerging entrepreneurs in real estate. So, with these initiatives, we are working across Pan India, a dynamic woman group with a complete enthusiasm and energy. So, I take also the opportunity for to introduction of today's speaker. Henan holds a master's degree in sanitary engineer from Delft University, Netherlands. He has worked for the government of Nepal and Sri Lanka for the Southeast Asia Regional Office of the World Health Organization, UNICEF, and several NGOs and knowledge institutes. Since 2015, he is the president of International Rainwater Harvesting Alliance, ERA, based in Geneva. ERA has national alliance members in South Korea, Cambodia, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Malawi, Madagascar, Somalia, Senegal, United States, and Mexico. I think all the continents. So really, we have an eminent speaker having global experience, having worked with all the continents of the world, and it is of diverse geography and diverse water challenges. So it is really a great opportunity to have Han with us. From 1982 to 2020, he lived in Asia and Africa, working in water supply, sanitation, and public health. In the early days of his career, water was often still sufficient, although quality and service needed development. Since then, population growth, urbanization, and climate change have started, and that we are all seeing it, that how it is impacted and have started to affect the reliability and seasonality of water resources. Han Hengen started developing rainwater harvesting solution in rural water supply in Sri Lanka in 1995 as a part of World Bank investing program, and has gradually promoted the importance of rainwater harvesting for water security globally. I wish to mention here that in SARC forum of SARNet that we met in the last 2 years back in the conference, and that was a learning opportunity to meet Han in that conference, and after that on various meetings we conducted. So I again take opportunity here to welcome Han for this session, and I request you to take the charge for the session. I will share the presentation. Before that, I request if you want to share something as a starting note.
Well, thank you very much, Pratnya. I'm very privileged to be able to speak to a group of, as you say, very dynamic ladies who are working in the sector, in building, in organizing communities, and making sure that water will be better taken care of, more adequate in the future, or stay adequate in the future. It's quite obvious that the role of women in the field of water supply is, on the one hand, very important, on the other hand, still limited. And that is a problem. When you see my first slide, Pratnya, you will see that it is a picture of the Rupatal near Pokhara in Nepal, and it shows the water flowing down the hill, ultimately ending up in the lake. And it was at that time in 1983 that I tried to hire a lady to work as a professional in our water supply investment program. It took me about 9 months, more than that maybe, because of the fact that not just were at that time there not many ladies who were, or women, who were able to work in this field, but the problems were also social. You also needed to have a husband who was allowing the women to go out in the field at times on their own. I'm sure that these problems have been resolved to some extent, but occasionally you will still meet them. And so therefore it's very, very important that you continue to work as a group of dedicated women to reduce these thresholds, these access points, and make sure that your voice is heard, that you have an influence on how decisions are being made, because ultimately the water manager at home is still in many cases the woman. So better take your chance. Shall I start, Pradnya?
Yes,
So this is the
start
picture
presentation. Yes, sure.
from the Rupatal, just only a starting position. Next, please. As Pradnya introduced me, I'm working with IRHA as its president, and please go back one, yes. And we are an agency that came up as a need after the Johannesburg World Summit on Sustainable Development already some 23 years ago. And since that time, we've been working to promote rainwater harvesting in various ways. And that will be shown a little bit further down the presentation as well. We also do a number of proof of concept activities in countries with our partners. Next, please. Next, please. So the issue, of course, that we are talking about is now the previous one. Yes, it's a bit of a difficulty in that sense. As you can see in this picture, we are going to face some problems with water in the future. And especially where you are considering water to be, let's say, dependent on rainfall, etc., you will see that there is a band just north of the equator where you see countries from east to west suffering in the future. Partly because, of course, there are so many people there, but also because of heat and the sun is causing us some problems at times. Then climate change, temperatures are rising. Unfortunately, we are already going towards the 2 degrees, it appears, in places. And I was just speaking to a friend of mine from Australia, whom I asked how his trip had been to Australia. And he said it was unbearable. You could not get out. It was so hot. He just returned about 3 weeks ago. And he is a gentleman of 85 years. But these are the type of things that we're going to face. Age is affecting the heat stress even more, is causing more problems. Water is, of course, becoming a limited resource, and you can see that, you know, many countries on this picture are going to suffer. South Africa is also a case in point. We'll see that in a minute. Next, please. Of course, you all being, or not you all, but most of you being from India, you will know that, you know, there have been seasonal shortages, water shortages always. The population and the activities that we undertake are determined by the water. And nowadays, of course, with the urbanization growing, we face even larger problems because whereas before water use was spread out, now it is concentrating. It's more difficult to bring all that water to that one place where many hundreds of thousands and sometimes millions of people are living. If then at the same time the climate is changing and heating up and maybe making rainwater precipitation more erratic, then of course we face problems. Now, an example there is, of course, looking at the picture at the bottom, Africa, where you traditionally would know that North Africa is dry, but there are more places where it is dry. And you see that especially places like South Africa, which wants to develop, has difficulties developing to some extent because of lack of water. And sometimes there's not just the rain, not just the drought, but also the intense rain, because that is what is happening now that the temperature is rising. The clouds are holding more moisture than before. And when it then starts raining, it comes down intensely. And not only that, the water rushes off in our cities because all our cities are paved. The water cannot penetrate the hardened soil, and so we lose a lot of water, wasted water, lost opportunity for further use. Next, please. It's not only affecting us very directly, but also indirectly, because as you can see here, people are suffering because they have to collect water from quite a distance. Please go back. From quite a distance, and it's affecting their livelihood. I mean, as you can see, these 2 kids are not going to school in time. You can only bring so much water home, so therefore that will result in less hygiene and less health. And what is happening with the elderly and the chronically ill? Those are also there. and they cannot necessarily take care of themselves so easily without support. So water is a big issue and relates very much to health. Next. And then, of course, occasionally there are floods. Every year, I remember over the last decades that, Mumbai at the end of the rainy season is facing some floods. Have we been able to do something about it or not yet? The floods can be fast ones, which are very dangerous, or there can be slow ones, which are also dangerous, but it takes a bit of time before we see the effects and how it is affecting us. I remember very well that when I lived in Bangladesh in the beginning, the first few months of my stay there, Dhaka was basically flooded. And I had to go on my bicycle from my house to the office. And while doing so, I would, of course, splash up to my middle. What to do? No, you had to go. And it was causing me skin problems. So, little things, but of course, for me, it wasn't such a big issue, but for a lot of people, it was a big issue. And this type of floods cause a lot of damage and disruption and, of course, economic problems. The article that it links to is very interesting to read. I can recommend it. Next, please. Okay, now the question is, water for what? For what are we using water? I will ultimately, in this presentation, focus more on urban, but let me just give an overview. In the rural areas, of course, drinking water and the use of water in the domestic area is important. Often, domestic water is still quite basic in the rural areas. It's further needed for agriculture. Often rain-fed, sometimes people have a pond or a lake that they can use. Irrigation for small farmers is difficult. Ecosystems and biodiversity are also very much dependent on water. Are they getting it? Are they not getting it? In Sri Lanka, for instance, for the elephants, they are also putting water troughs that are based on rainwater collection. Very clever, because also the elephants need water at times when it is very dry. In the rural areas, water may be a problem seasonally, but often nowadays the surface and groundwater solutions, hand pumps, boreholes, are available. And of course, increasingly people are able to use rainwater because their roofs are fairly good and they can collect the rain near their house. In the urban setting, the situation is quite more complicated. Not only, as I said, do you have to bring water from ever further away, either in the horizontal distance because it has to come from 20, 30, maybe sometimes 100 kilometers away, or in the vertical sense, in the sense that we have to drill ever deeper and pump the groundwater up to the surface to be able to add it to the piped water supply. Then again, we produce sewerage. All our waste, our liquid waste, will go into a sewer and ultimately ends up, hopefully after treatment, in our surface water systems or on the land. That, of course, is ultimately damaging the capacity of water supply companies to treat the water because it's going to be contaminated and more costly to treat. There are also seasonal, you only have to think about the monsoon in the South Asia region, seasonal water supply issues. During the monsoon, everybody is happy it rains like cats and dogs. It was a time when we were jokingly saying in Nepal that, when the rains come around end of June, then our work as water supply providers was going to be relieved for at least 4 or 5 months because nobody would complain to us. But the moment that the rains stop and the dry season comes in, of course, everybody is expecting us to provide water from the sources that we have been able to save. Not always so easy, certainly not when the population is growing. And that's a point that I want to make here. In many instances, the infrastructure that we have available is lagging behind the requirement. Cities are growing so fast that we are facing very big difficulties serving everybody. It's costly. As I say, it's far away where you have to bring the water off from deep down. That is costly. And then again, increasingly, and rightly so, there is the issue of withdrawal permissions. How much water are you allowed to draw 20, 30, 40 kilometers away from a community that used to have the benefit of that water? And now, of course, the big city is saying, we need that water, please bring it to us. So these are things which are, causing problems. We also need water for productivity in our industries, for the water for products, but also for the process of making things. At the same time, the industries are producing wastewater. Are they reusing that wastewater again, or are they just discharging, hopefully treated? All kind of issues. Energy is very critical. Several countries in the region, in the South Asia region, use hydropower, which of course is fine, no water loss. You store the water and use it for producing electricity when you need it. But of course, sometimes there is tension between the water that the farmers would like to have and are expecting, and the water that is needed to produce energy, and which is not yet needed, but only later. So therefore, you cannot always send the water from the storage reservoir. And it's a balancing act for the people who are dealing with that. There's also another type of agriculture. Of course, quite a number of countries in the region, especially India, Pakistan, are using irrigation to a very high extent. Irrigation is necessary. At the same time, of course, there is overuse of irrigation, there is evaporation, and so the ultimate water footprint of the produce of the grains and so on that are being produced is at times a little bit larger than we would hope. For agriculture, we still need to do some work in order to save our water. Depending on the country, sometimes shipping and fishery is also using water. For this presentation, I will now basically go back to urban. Next, please. And discuss a little bit why we need water security. Water security, of course, is something that I, with my family, would like to have. When I open the tap, when I go to my storage reservoir, I would like to have water in my household. Not always so easy, because a lot of people, also in the urban areas, do not always know when their water will come. And if you have storage, maybe you don't have too much of a problem. But if you do not have it, then of course you are expecting that water to come now when you're cooking your food, when you're cleaning your baby. Community, does the community have sufficient water to cover all the seasons? At regional and national level, we know that in many places there are issues. How are you going to share? How are you going to distribute the water? And then again, between countries, say Nepal and India, India and Bangladesh, there are transboundary issues. How are we going to fairly share the water? This is all part of contracts and needs to be part of contracts. Water is good for us. Yes, we need it. We use it for all kinds of daily purposes. But at the same time, if there is too much water, we need to be protected from flood or landslides. So it's a two-edged sword. The issue with water is that, we need to know how it works. And that's an institutional issue. Who controls the water? Who governs the water? Who can do? That means to say, who is allowed to do certain things? Do we have the capacity to do it, the engineering aspects? Who controls? Usually it's a board. Who governs? Of course, you expect a ministry to do that. Who can do is a whole range of capacities that are needed in order to make sure you get the best deal. And the financiers are looking at that. Are they doing it right? If so, then we can finance. If not, maybe a bit difficult. Lots of legal aspects and regulation are required. And then most importantly, the feedback system, the feedback loop through monitoring and planning in order to make sure that it works and continues to work. Now, of course, there are plenty competitors. The cities want water. The farmers want water. The industry wants water. And of course, nature, a silent nature, also needs water. And who are looking after these water issues? In the cities, there are votes. For the farmers, there are votes. So our politicians listen. Then again, in the industry, there are economic interests. There is a powerful lobby and money talks. So these type of issues are there. And altogether, it causes stress, it causes tension among the users and an uncertain water future, which of course now with climate change is even getting worse. What can we do about it? We need to survey, we need to study what is happening and then try to develop all kinds of innovative approaches, or sometimes going back to the olden days, to tradition, because certainly in South Asia, you were very good at maintaining water in your systems, as I will show in a minute. Policy is very important. A determination of who is getting water, when, what time of the year, sharing it such that everyone gets a fair deal. And that means that we will also have to sometimes compromise. We have to conserve water. We cannot use it now. We have to use it later. And we have to improve the effective use of water. As, of course, as a Mahi, as a women's group, I have seen in your promotional efforts, you are also promoting very much. Now, all this requires data collection and feedback to politicians and decision makers such that we can plan for improvements. Next, please. Yes, the next, yes. This is an example from the country where I'm now living. You see two pictures. One is on the left-hand side, 2023, April, and on the right-hand side, 2025, April. The drought monitor of the Ministry of Water Infrastructure. In 23, we had sufficient water in the country. In 25, we are not having sufficient water in the countries. For the last month or so, water levels have been falling, as you can see at the yellowish bit. I don't want to give too much attention to it. We are used to that. We are working with it. And based on the water levels, certain guidance is given to municipalities and to the households whether they are able to water their garden or not, and also to the farmers so that they also know when to use groundwater and surface water. It's necessary to have these systems in place, otherwise you cannot come up with solutions for the future. Next, please. There are still too many people who are not served with water supply in the world. As you can see, this right-hand side column, 74% of the population in 2020 is supposed to have received a safely managed, a good water supply. Then further to the top, there are several that are not getting it, like ultimately some 7% is not getting good water at all. They're still drinking surface water and unimproved water. This is globally. That means to say it includes the rich countries. What about the poor countries? If you look at the column on the left-hand side, you see that the yellowish bits in that column are far higher. That means the number of people not having water supply, a good water supply, is still very high. And that's a problem for us. How are we going to provide, on the right-hand side, the last 7% of people with water? Do you think we can do that with groundwater or with surface water? No, it's not possible. Scientifically not possible. We cannot, well, scientifically is maybe not correct. It would be possible, but it is economically not possible because we cannot carry all the water up the mountain, so to speak, or in faraway deserts. So we have to think how we can do that. Now, even in deserts, it rains, as our Saudi friends can tell you, but it does not rain very regularly. So you have to do something about the storage. Now, here you find that the overall communication and water education is important. We have to continue to tell people, continue to tell people that they, what the issues are relating to water conservation, water saving, etc. So more is needed, and rainwater harvesting is part of the solution. But in addition, we have to do more with the ponds and lakes that we used to have and that are now kind of filling up with all kind of solid waste, or sometimes with hyacinth, water hyacinth, etc. So we need to clean that up and make them effective storage ponds again. And we have to develop more capacity to do managed aquifer recharge. Extra water that we have during the monsoon, we should, as much as possible, try to recharge in our soil. That is all part of integrated water resources management and protection of watersheds and ecosystems. If you recall the picture with which I started, you saw mountains and hills, or hills and paddy fields. That type of system needs to be protected and well taken care of, such that ultimately also the people down the hill and in the cities will have water. We think at IRHA that 6 to 8% of the world population can be rainwater harvesting based. Currently, it is about 1.5%, not so much, but it is growing fast. Good use of rain will make the difference. The world cannot afford to waste it. Next, please. Now here you have something that I'm not going to read because you can do that yourself. But from the 1980s, China, with a growing population, was forced to produce more food. And so they were looking at all the different places, and ultimately in Gansu province, where there was less rich, healthy soil, but not sufficient water, they have been looking at how they can upgrade traditional rainwater harvesting collection in such a way that, they can produce more food. And they were quite successful during the 80s and 90s doing so, and now it is spreading to half of the China's provinces. Else, ik heb de last van. Okay, sorry. South Asia, of course, I don't have to tell the story. You used to have very many places in southern India and also in Sri Lanka, Pakistan, where water was collected during the monsoon and used during the dry periods. That was all based on community arranged labor and management. Then, of course, we centralized, and we were waiting for the government to come. And the government came, but not always at the right time, and not always with the right machinery. So problems. Same story in East and North Africa, where traditional water harvesting and management systems, due to lack of maintenance, also started to fall into disrepair. Now, further down in Africa, in East Africa, Central Africa, they're now promoting homestead ponds, and it makes a difference. Collecting rain makes a difference, and according to some studies, can increase your income as a farmer sixfold. In Europe, we think that we are somehow okay because it's a moderate climate. It rains regularly, but even there, also because of population growth, also because of our sophistication, we want certain things to do in a different way. We now find that, water is becoming a limiting factor. That is not a problem, but we have to think about it again and how we reuse and reshare all the water that we have available such that everyone can benefit. And of course, in Europe in particular, we're not only talking about drinking water supply, although that's important, we're also talking about rivers that carry shipping. And because of the lowering flows in the rivers, sometimes the cost of transporting goods is increasing. So all kind of implications of a different kind that are caused by climate change. Please. Next. But you all knew that because this booklet, it's by now 1997 that it was produced, unfortunately, to my knowledge, not anymore available from CSE, but this is such a fantastic book with so much of very nice, interesting information, technical information, social information, financial information, the way how people managed to live there, to survive, and to have a thriving society with a great culture, only because they were able to manage their water. Next, please. Of course, rainwater harvesting has been applied around the world. In Australia, there are serious seasonal water shortages, so therefore the Australian government already some 30, 40 years ago said every household must have a rainwater harvesting tank. Sydney has. So many places have. And you'll find that, 10% of the Australians drink rainwater and 25% use it. Germany, similar story. Germany had a problem in the 90s. The sewer systems were old, 100 years or more, and they needed to be, increased. But rather than increasing the sewer line, they said, okay, let us disconnect the rainwater from the sewer. In that process, they came to the conclusion that actually this rainwater is much more useful than we thought. And we are now going to have 30 to 70% of the household water coming from rain in certain instances. So they developed new technologies, and because of the fact that there was a lot of money involved, the universities also were able to come in and develop new technologies for a flourishing industry. Singapore is a small place. Singapore was, when I studied, my professor was telling me that, he had been to Singapore a few times in order to look at the water problems. And, yes, they were getting all the water from Malaysia. Malaysia is a lot bigger. Yes, they have plenty of water, but the Singaporeans wanted to be independent. So therefore, rather than buying water from Malaysia, they have since around 1980s, they have been working to eliminate their dependency on Malaysia and collect rainwater. Also developing that further. So each house, each flat, each area collects rainwater and stores it. And it then ultimately runs off into several of their large lakes. And so ultimately they have 4 types of water: rainwater, imported water, they still take some water from Malaysia. New water, which is actually wastewater that has been treated in such a sophisticated way that it is drinkable water. And then when they cannot avoid, they will also use some desalinated water, which of course is more expensive to produce. Sri Lanka is a country which has plenty of rain. It has 2 monsoons, and so it is in a very good position. But it also has a lot of people who are not supplied and cannot, to my mind, be supplied economically for the next 20 or 30 years. So therefore, they have been looking at rainwater harvesting as well. And so now in low-lying areas, in the hills, in near the sea, rainwater has become an option that has become quite common. Next, please. These are all methods by which people are trying to make sure they have sufficient water for their daily requirement, for their regional and national and city requirement. Here in this picture, it's now a bit dated, but at the moment, I think there are about 50,000 rainwater harvesting systems spread around the country, both in very dry areas of Sri Lanka as well as in wet areas of Sri Lanka. The usual size of the tank for the household is around 5 to 8 cubic meters. And of course, there are also some bigger systems for schools and hospitals. Very effective, very cost effective also, a lot cheaper than building a complete distribution network. Next, please. Next, please. Oh, no, I'm missing the... Yes, here we are. Yes. And so this example of China that I mentioned was taken over in around 1998 by Brazil. The northeast of Brazil is an extremely dry area. Sometimes it doesn't rain for 2 or 3 years, and still there are a lot of people living there, a lot of poor people, a lot of people who also, were on the lower end of the social scale. And so the government has started the million rainwater tank program and has currently, since 2004, built well over 1 million tanks. And now people are having water near their home and are able to live there. It's a tough life, but they live there, and they live there both in the rural areas as well as in the cities, in the towns. Rainwater harvesting is the preferred option. Next, please. Next, please. Hello? Yes. So, yeah, okay. That's good. So, in China, when they saw that in Gansu, rainwater harvesting worked, they were thinking about it. And in 1995, the IRCSA, the International Rainwater Catchment Systems Association, preceding IRHA, had a meeting in Beijing, and that started off a process, as you can see in this scheme. And in 2013, I also went to a similar meeting in Beijing and Nanjing, and we looked at the issues in China again, especially looking at the urban setting. At that time, China had already made quite a bit of progress. The progress was also helped because of the Olympics that were held, in which several sporting facilities were built that were collecting the rainwater. And I saw these, I visited the sites and looked at the technology, etc. And it was done very well, very clever. And because of that type of development, China now has a very vast rainwater harvesting industry, very sophisticated. But they were still in trouble because, as you read the newspapers occasionally, China either is in drought or it has floods. That was the case for a long time. And since it has so many people in the country, it needs to do something about it. And so therefore, rainwater harvesting in different ways is going to help. And they developed the concept of sponge city. Next, please. Sponge city being as a sponge. It collects the rain. Yes, it collects rain when it rains, and then when you have a dry period, you can collect the rain from the sponge, by different technologies. So the issue here is that you have to make sure that your cities and places are able to are able to infiltrate water. So therefore, paving, hard surfaces, and all these type of things need to be broken up. And you need to have parks, you need to have ways by which you can collect the rain, use it directly, or if it's not used directly, make sure that it can infiltrate in your subsoil and augment the groundwater. Next, please. So this they have been doing very effectively. There are several, yes, it's okay, raindrops, seeds of biodiversity. Last year we had a conference in Cali in Colombia, in which also that was on biodiversity. Dr. Sarika Kulkarni of Ra Foundation in Mumbai also gave a presentation on their work, on their water work in the Western Ghats, which is very much, managing the rainwater in those areas. And we in my village, we are doing the same thing. We have at the moment maybe around 130, 129, 130 liter per head per day use in our households. And we want to go down to 100 liters per head per day, which is very well possible, but it requires some behavioral adaptation. You have to start looking at the water in your tap and the water that is coming from your roof and somehow balance what you can manage. If you do that well, and if you do the same things with the housing that you have, and you saw the picture there from Medellin in Colombia, where you see a green flat, a green apartment block. That, of course, is increasingly happening. There are so many initiatives all over the world happening. I was in touch with Berlin in Germany recently, where they have a dedicated rainwater harvesting office in order to produce these type of technologies and architectural solutions to ensure that, the city is greening, reducing the heat stress, and at the same time using directly rainfall that falls onto these apartment blocks. Next, please. I'm also very much impressed. I read through a little bit through your work as Naredko Mahi, Maila Kokam Dire Ramailo. Ramailo is, of course, the Nepali. It's not Nepali. It's anyway. It's very important, and I was very impressed with the type of foci, the different emphasis that you are putting on the work, and of course, the last statement in the right-hand bottom corner. Intention comes before finance. I think that is the issue in many instances. Yes, you can spend money on it, and some people can, but first of all, it is you yourself, your family, that can do something. So the intention, the willingness to change is something that is important. At the same time, when I say this, I realize that a lot of people have no ability to change because they are already receiving so little water. So this is also an understanding that we must have, that, in many instances, you find people in southern India also flocking to a tankered water supply, which of course doesn't allow you to carry much water home. So there are issues. Next, please. So lastly, I think the issues are quite clear. We need to implement no regret actions. We cannot stop and argue about this or that. We have to start doing something, and that requires a better understanding of the current issues in water resources and water supply management, and then make sure that we have better plans, updated plans. We do have the technology, we do have the AI, we do have all kinds of things these days, but we need to do more in order to make sure that we are in time for everybody to receive water in their home. And it is at all levels. In my country, we are doing programs that we call Space for the River. We want to broaden the river so that the river doesn't flood and has more space for extra water to be conserved. Then again, in India, Sri Lanka, lakes and ponds that used to be there are filled up. We need to clean them. We need to make them part of our heritage again, as it used to be, and make sure that the water is used, can be used when we need it. Generally, paving, generally slowing down the rainwater, removing the paving is something that is necessary. Rainwater needs to be used as much as possible for in the landscape. And that also means that, a lot of solutions are, in fact, the solutions that our great-grandfathers, our forebears used, because they were, of course, over time becoming very practical and clever. I'm giving the example of irrigation schemes in the Himalayas in Nepal, which I worked there with a theodolite. These people did it with their bare hands and created the same solution. Of course, it took them 150 years from father to son, etc., but very effective. So nature-based solutions is something that we have to look at. We should not just destroy everything and think that, we're the best ones. No. Our forebears used to live before our time, and they did very well. So therefore, research and production of practical appliances for water saving at home, very many are available these days, and in the farm, irrigation, mulching, different practices are necessary in order to make sure that your farm is functioning well. It's a bit of work. Yes, I don't like mulching. I do mulch, but it's a bit of extra work. So, I feel it in my back when I have been mulching. Anyway, these are the things. As architects and builders and plumbers and all people who are interested in promoting good use of the environment, we need to design our estates and homes and commercial establishments in such a way that we can effectively collect and use rainwater. There's lots of scope. And if we are doing that and showing it, demonstrating it, then of course we have arguments for behavioral change at household and community level. These are things we can do. Of course, politics is there, but I feel that gradually the understanding is there that we need to work on that very quickly. Next, please. I'm not going to say anything. This is Kerala. People are collecting water, putting it in their well after using a small sand filter. Very clever. Excess rainwater is used. Yes, please. The commercial areas, this is Brandiks in Sri Lanka, in Bangladesh, in India, and they have a policy in which they are already collecting at this moment 36% of their water needs through rainwater and recycled water. Especially with companies of this nature, this can be done. We have to work towards greater water neutrality, and I think architects and planners can have a great influence in that field. Next. This is a list of things which you can look at and think of. It's a repetition a bit of what I've been saying. Communication and water education remains very critical. We have to continue to inform our citizens and especially also inform the children. Do all kinds of projects with them such that they understand that water is important and needs to be taken care of. I'm not going to read it out because this is something that you can think of later on. Next, please. So this is my last statement. I think no need for any philosophical statements, because the pictures show it for themselves. If you collect rainwater, you're your own woman or man. If you are not collecting rainwater, you are dependent on someone else. The Singapore example is a clear point, and I'm very happy to see that the government is very keen to support rainwater harvesting in different ways. Now, the question is that when I visited a conference in Senegal some 2 years ago, the World Water Conference, at that time, the government of India had a big booth, and they were showing all kinds of things that they were doing on rainwater. This was about 2022, I believe. I was looking at the websites of the Jal Shakti Ministry, and nowadays I find it difficult to find. Are we forgetting so quickly? Let's catch the rain. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Han, for this wonderful session. Just to summarize your points, that climate change is a really challenge. Drought and intense rain is also bit a challenge, that either there is a drought or intense rain. Health and economic impact on community, yes, that is there. Drinking and domestic, in agriculture there is always a fight that who need water. So people need water for drinking, agriculture need water, industry need water. So within the users there is always a fight and debate that everyone needs water. Yes, we are losing with our traditional system ecological approach with water conservation and management. Earlier in India, as you referred the book of CSE, I was in very much touch with that, and all our traditional rainwater harvesting systems in India, which are community based, community driven, understanding local geography, that somewhere we are losing that channel, and which need to strengthen, because those were the sustainable models that has been established. Yes, there is a hydropower need of farmer agriculture, again diverse utilization needs, and yes, there is also distribution challenges within states and within nations, which are the rivers and water bodies flowing across them. So it is another, it is always said that the next war will be on water, so we should be prepared for that, and it is really becoming a challenge. And decentralization is a solution for that, that decentralized collection at the local level within the community. That's what you have demonstrated through the various case studies in different nations, and with the ecological approach, with the changed living style, we have moved on with urbanization, and the challenges with urbanizations need to modify with the current living for our betterment, our health, our good resource of limited resource of water, that how we can use effectively. And aquifer recharge, I just gone through one article published in LinkedIn, that groundwater extraction moved Earth's axis, and this exploitation, which is a very serious challenge, that Earth's axis has been shifting, because see, this exploitation, this underground water currents absorbs shocks, avoid earthquakes, it is what is said, and if we are exploiting and reducing it, affect, and it is moved Earth's axis. So such a level of drastic challenges we are facing related to that. I request, if before we move on to the questions, I want to introduce you to our chairman, Dr. Ananta Raghuvamshi. She is writing a book on water warriors, and has really a good study over the people. See, giving platform to the water warriors is also another aspect So bringing different case studies, bringing their fights within the community for water. So Dr. Ananta Raghumish is the chairman of Naradko Mahi, and Mrs. Smita Patil, she is president of Naradko Mahi. So I welcome both of you, madam.
Thank
And
you.
so
Thank
I
you so
request
much.
you
Thank you.
to speak little about this session, both of you, and then we'll move on to the questions.
Right.
Thank
First and foremost, a very good evening to our amazing audience, and thank you so very much, Mr. Han. You covered the global perspective of water in such an amazing manner. Your presentation was absolutely, I have no words to describe how informative it was for us, whether it was Brazil or China or Australia, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Kerala. You got it all covered up for us so beautifully. I think we'll go through this presentation once again to absorb everything that you have shared with us. We will also ensure that the message that you have created here reaches all our 15,000 builders across India. And of course, we have a beautiful women's wing, as you know, Naredko Mahi, for which Smita is the president. And I'm sure I'm going to request her to take it to the schools as well. We have a Bal Jal Sena, which is our kiddie army, children warriors who advocate, and advocacy and amplification of this message of saving water. They take it far and wide and into their homes as well. So it has been absolutely most enjoyable for me. I'm actually at a global real estate conference right now in New Delhi, but I stepped out to listen to you, and I'm so happy that I did that, because every word for us was, really the gospel truth. What else can I say? We need water, and we need to do it right now, so that our future is safe. And thank you so very much for such a beautiful presentation. And like Pradnya said, your presentation, with your permission, we will try to use it and include it with full credits to you in this book that we hope to launch in our annual convention. So thank you so very much for all these valuable inputs. And namaste and
Yes,
dhanyavad. Thank you.
you, madam, for the nice words. I request Smita Patil, madam, which is the president of Naradko Mahi. So I request you to say few words, please.
Thank you so much, Pradnya ji, and thank you so much, Mr. Han, for taking out the time for every one of us. As you know, we are also working towards water conservation, and the kind of global perspective you have given us, it will help us a lot. We are focusing on the rural areas of India. We are focusing in the even the schools and colleges, and at the developer sites, we are taking the awareness programs to make people understand what is the right now position of water and how we can save it. We are giving them ideas with the wonderful team I have, like Pradnya ji and the Nirmal Jal Prayas entire team, working hard towards to reach people and make them aware the current scenario of water in India. So, being a world's largest populated country, it is a time to act. Actually, it's very crucial to understand and save the water right now. And the way you have given us a global perspective, definitely it will help us a lot. And your presence and active participations have made these sessions truly meaningful. So we hope like it has sparked the ideas and encouraged dialogue and inspired action for towards all the water warriors and water secure world. So thank you so much. And definitely, as Ananta ma'am said, we will use your presentation for our team as well, for our awareness programs as well, so that it should reach to the maximum people and make them understand how important it is to save the water and how we can save it. So rainwater harvesting, definitely we are working. We have taken one project from the rural area near Pune. There is one village, like we will be doing the rainwater harvesting for the school, and there is a well, like we'll be cleaning that water and making it drinkable one to the 500 families who used to drink it earlier. So such a projects we will be working under Nirmal Jal Prayas under Naredko Mahi, and definitely we would need your help for the further projects as well. Thank you so much, Pradnya ji, for introducing Mr. Hen to all of us, and thank you, Mr. Hen, for giving this quality time from your life to for all of us.
Thank you, Smita, and thank you, Pradnya. Thank you, Ketki. Wonderful session. And thank you, Mr. Han. I hope we get to see more of you in the coming sessions. And if you can fly down to India for our national convention, we'll be most grateful and most obliged.
You're most welcome.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Ananta ma'am. There is some questions to you. There is one question, Han. That how
I'll
to protect.
leave. I'll carry on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ananta madam. Yeah, the question, how natural streams flowing on construction sites which are observed during excavation. So generally these streams have been blocked during the excavation when the base is created, and that streams, if we conserve it, we divert it, and we can utilize it efficiently. So do you have something to say on this question, please?
Yes, I would like to give the example of road construction. In road construction around the world, usually borrow pits are dug in order to bring up soil material to build the road, at least the foundation of the road. And so similar to the example that the questioner is asking, of course, these borrow pits are lying nearby. They're sometimes quite large and deep, and they can be used for rainwater collection. And it works. It's something that you can do nearly at no cost, because you were anyway going to collect this soil for your building work. So whether it's a big building or a plot or a road, yes, use it. I think
Thank
that's
you.
a very good idea. It's something that can be considered. It should be, to some extent, what I want to say, Pradnya, is that in my presentation, I stopped because I stopped with the last few slides. The last few slides are documents which people may, look up at the internet, etc. And there are two documents, or three actually, which give very direct examples of what can be done. And one of the things that I think has happened over the last maybe 5, 6, maybe 10 years is that in the rural areas, the traditional methods have been revamped. They have been used again, so that's good. But in the urban setting, so many clever ideas and new technologies have come in, and they're gradually being published. It means to say in commercial settings, etc. And that's something, if your water warriors are interested, they should just enter the internet and start looking and Google or whatever, and they'll find an awful lot of very interesting stuff that may also have application in their own context.
Okay, great. There are a few more questions coming up. So I will just read the questions. Maybe your answer can align to all this. The one question is, does the Ketki, so the first question was by Manasvi Kere. The next question is by Ketki Kasbekar. Does the groundwater depletion or over extraction impact the quantity of water in the rivers, because finally our natural streams within that geography? So
that's a very pertinent question. It depends very much on the local geology, the soil layers in the subsoil, but it will certainly happen that when you're extracting substantially, say within 100 or half a kilometer, 100 meters or half a kilometer from the river, If you're abstracting too much, then of course there will be a reverse stream and the river will start feeding into the groundwater. We sometimes also use that as part of treatment. But yes, it can be an issue. It is certainly an issue in our country where, you know, we are having to make sure that both the farmer's land is having water, but not too much. And on the other hand, the shipper, the fellow who is coming with his boat, also needs water in the river, but a bit more. So how are you going to balance these things? So yes, it requires a lot of study and monitoring, but it can be done. It is being done in my country. So.
In Netherlands, I have seen that waterways, because geographically you are below sea level, and there are very good water management through waterways, and all these gates management is done very effectively and efficiently. And I've seen ships, people are staying, having ships, houses in the water body, and their houses. So I'm in Amsterdam. So this is really a great management one country is doing, and we have many rivers in our country. So maybe how we can adopt such solutions and align to that in our country. There is another question that Snehal Thatte, the external attendees from SSPL group. She has a question that due to urbanization, dam construction for water supply for cities are at large, that affects flowing water in rivers. River becomes sewers, and what is the impact on water quality?
Not quite sure whether I got it all, but the issue in India in particular has been, and maybe to some extent is still, an issue that, you know, some municipalities, some villages are not capable of treating the water before it is being discharged. And that, of course, yes, makes the Ganga a sewer. So you cannot be in that water because it will eat your legs, so to speak. No? I do not think that the use of tanks or rainwater is an issue here. The issue is simply that the water that we produce, we use water. The wastewater that we produce and discharge that is being drained needs to be clean, needs to be kept clean or made clean. So it means that maybe we need more decentralized treatment systems. In the past, also in India, when I worked there in the 80s, in the last century, there were quite good systems, but the systems were very large for that particular setting. And then when the city was expanding, you were falling short because it was costly to construct additional ones. Maybe sometimes a colony can have its own treatment system. That certainly is an option. And nowadays, with the technology that is available, it can be done cost effectively and probably cheaper than when you're building a centralized system. So there are also things which we can do nowadays, which we couldn't do 30, 40 years ago, in which you can look at your wastewater as a resource for water. And even if you do not want to use it for drinking water, because people may think, yeah, but I don't want that, it can still be used for the park, for your garden, for all kind of other uses that do not require it to be treated to the level of drinking water.
Okay, thank you very much again for all the answers, and thanks for the audience. I request if Smita madam is available. Okay. So this is really a great session, and thank you very much for giving up good time for all the sessions and accepting our invite and delivering us such a wonderful guidance to the audience about water conservation as it is a need of the future. And the resources are limiting, population is increasing, and we are facing the challenges. Smita madam is here. I request you if you can say a thanksgiving and concluding the session. Thank you. You are on mute, madam. Hello, you are on mute.
Yeah. Am I audible now?
Yes,
Yes,
you
you
are.
are.
Thank you so much, Mr. Han. Thank you, Pradnya from bringing Mr. Han here for the Mahi talk. Thank you, Ketki, for such a smooth coordination for the Mahi talk. As usual, you did very well. And definitely, this session will help us a lot. It will be online on our platforms as well. It works like online for our members. So it is a close group of members for whom we have kept it online and to coordinate with you directly. And on our YouTube channels, it will be available for each and every person. They can watch it here. So thank you so much, given us the global perspective, and we will disturb you once again for few of the things which is required for under Nirmal Jal Prayas. So thank you, Pradnya ji, thank you, Mr. Han, and thank you, Ketken. Thank you all the attendees for attending this session. All my Mahi members, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
You're most
you.
welcome.
Thank you. And we'll
Thank
end
you
the
for your
session.
time.
Yeah. Ketki, please.
Yeah. Thank you for your time, Mr. Han, and I truly appreciate your effort and time. And we hope to stay connected for more such learning opportunities from you in the future.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a very nice opportunity to do it. I mean, the challenge that I faced in preparing my notes was simply that the subject is so vast in its complexity, and everyone has a different perspective. I mean, you can say a global perspective, but
Correct.
we all have a different perspective when we talk about water, and maybe even sometimes our perspective changes during the day when we are in a different situation. So one thing that I would like to conclude with is that this was only a talk. There are so many things happening, and I'm sure that you are, as a group, you are very well placed to absorb the ideas and innovative approaches of a variety of very many other entities. So do make use of that, and indeed go and visit the internet and look at it, or make use of me by getting some connections, whatever. Now, there's a lot to be learned, and I'm very sure that if you as a Mahi group within your organization are working, you can really influence the direction in which these water conservation and rainwater harvesting can go in the near future. Thank you very much once again for
Thank
the
you.
opportunity.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Mr. Han.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Pratnya, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we'll
Okay.
leave the session. Yeah, thank you.